tonight really represents this is the first step in a series of conversations that we will have in the impact investment areas across the city. But it's important that we came here first. And actually, I was walking up and down Pennsylvania Avenue last night because we know the historical significance and what bringing this area to returning it to prominence in a new era of prominence would mean for our city. Most of us we also understand that this process is essential really to our work, building on what we started with our community development framework way back in 2019, which seems like 30 years ago thanks to the pandemic. The framework was really designed to focus our limited resources to yield maximum results. Most of us were serving in the city in one capacity or another as the framework ideals advance, and we've all worked in these communities, as we all know, for many years. But so much has happened and changed since then. We all know that COVID-19 came and wrecked all of our plans, but it also shed light on so many things for some people, and particularly inequities faced by many when it comes to job losses, lower wages, income, health, and of course, housing. And unfortunately, the pandemic even widened those gaps for many, many people in Baltimore and across the world. But it also, for me, underscored the importance of my pillar goals, specifically for equitable neighborhood development, and it increased the understanding of a wider audience of the lasting adverse effects of racially discriminatory housing policies and practices. Nobody that lives in West Baltimore, East Baltimore, Northwest Baltimore grew up here. We already knew that, but for so many people, the COVID pandemic, if anything positive came out for it, people now understand that people in these communities weren't just making these things up, that this is actually true, and we have to invest in a deep way to undo those things. And as you all know, we have the unique opportunity to move an action plan forward at this time, which we unveiled earlier this year. And as you also all know, we've announced the allocation of $100 million of our ARPA funding, our blessing from the President and the Congress, to help tackle vacant housing, prevent blight, create affordable housing initiatives, and protect our residents, and particularly our legacy residents. And we're taking these actions to fulfill our communities with our residents and around fostering home ownership, housing affordability, housing security within Baltimore's historically red line neighborhoods. That's where we're going to start first. This does not mean that other neighborhoods don't matter, but this does mean that these neighborhoods actually matter and that they are no longer going to be ignored or left off the map as they have been for so long. I want you to know that we deeply appreciate your work and that it is being digested, utilized, and acted on wherever we can. I've said it from the beginning that equity will be my guiding principle. As we continue our work and chart our new course, I believe the conversation you are having here this evening will be a part of that transformation of Baltimore into the greatest version of itself. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. And let's work together today and every day to make West Baltimore the best version of itself and Baltimore the best version of itself. Thank you.
We want to thank BR for allowing us a couple of minutes. My colleague, Howard Tutman, Neighborhood Development Officer from Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm Chad Hayes, formerly the Western District Planner, now the Director of the Community Planning Revitalization Division at the Department of Planning. We just first of all want to thank everybody so much for coming out tonight. This is a really important night, and really wanted to take a moment to thank our friends and our work group partners. I'm going to start off by thanking Miss Annie Hall and Kelly Little from the Penn North Community Association. They have worked tirelessly through our Impact Investment Area Work Group for a number of years now, and just can't thank you enough for all that you've done for the Impact Investment Area and for helping us with all the work that we're doing. I'm going to hand it over to my friend Howard to say a few words.
Thanks, Chad, and we appreciate the partnership with the Department of Planning and all you do to help out DHCD. Again, Howard Tutman, Neighborhood Development Officer for Baltimore City DHCD, and again, I welcome you to our first community conversation. And again, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. The other two partners I would like to introduce and recognize will be our partners from the Druid Heights neighborhood. John Dre Jennings, if she's here, and I know Rick Pearson is here. Rick, can you thank you very much for your participation in assisting us with making significant development in Druid Heights. And also for the Upton Planning Committee, I know Wanda's out of town, but Jules Dunham-Howie is here. Jules, if you can just raise your hand in the back there. Thank you very much, Jules. And again, the partnership with these two neighborhoods are to help eliminate blight in their respective neighborhoods and to also make significant progress in development following their master plans for each neighborhood. At this time, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our housing commissioner, our visionary, our leader who gives us directives and guidance on how to make the city of Baltimore a little bit better. And with further ado, Housing Commissioner Alice Kennedy.
First of all, I want to echo BR sentiments and Howard and Chad sentiments and just say how grateful and excited I am to have you all here tonight. This is a big milestone for us at the Department of Housing and Community Development as we look to revitalization efforts in the West Impact Investment Area, which is, constitutes a number of different neighborhoods and a number of different communities and neighborhood leaders and the partnerships that we've had. So this is really important, and the agenda for this evening is an important agenda. It was designed not only to share information with you, but to receive information back and to have additional community engagement and community collaboration and community conversations, which is why it's called a community conversation, about the work that is happening in your community, about the plans that are happening in the community, the assets that are in your community. How are we tackling vacant lots? How are we tackling vacant properties? How are we helping to build economic growth and economic opportunity on Main Street, such as Pennsylvania Main Street, which is right outside. So I just really cannot thank the staff at DHCD enough for getting us here, for BR for helping to lead us in the partnership with the mayor's office, for Director Ryer and the entire planning department staff, and most importantly, thanking all of you as the community members for taking time out of your week and time out of your evening for joining us here tonight, to have some fun, because this is about vision, and it's about change, and it's about love for your community, and it's about us also showing love for your community and having that in common, and making things happen and moving things forward, which is what we want to see. So with that, I want to give a little bit of background and understanding in terms of how this community conversation lays within kind of a larger working partnership that includes a multiple variety of different city agencies, elected officials. I want to recognize one of our elected officials who is with us here this evening, Councilman Costello. Thank you for joining us and taking time. Thank you for also being an integral partner in this work across all the communities, and as well as our local community organizations and our state agencies. And with that, I'd like to thank Carol Gilbert from State Department of Housing and Community Development is here with us. We couldn't do a lot of things without our state partnership, and so we're really grateful to you and Secretary Holt and for all the work that you do in partnership with us in the communities. So this is a framework for how we're going from listening, which is part of the community conversation, to planning and to action. And what you'll see up here kind of on the slide is an overview of that. This is our community conversation. It is kind of the community level engagement piece to the work that we're doing around the neighborhood sub-cabinet and our working groups and our community conversation structure. This is, like I said, it's where we're providing information and we're also providing feedback, we're getting feedback, we're providing information, we're getting feedback, and we're having those conversations. And some of these might be tough conversations, right? Like there might not be 100% agreement on what might needs to happen on this block versus this block, or what a vision may be, but our goal is to be able to take all that back and listen and be able to come to a consensus. Because if there's one thing that I know, is that I am a firm believer that every single one of us in this room cares about the communities, loves the city of Baltimore, loves the neighborhoods that we are in right now, and loves the neighborhoods that make up the West Impact Investment Area, and want to see that transformation and stabilization occur in these communities that are so important to all of your lives. So the meetings, these are open to the public. We're going to be having more of these in the other impact investment areas. This is really driving this piece of our equity lens and the intention and focus behind our work, which is extremely important to what we're doing. The community, allows us to kind of gain more information as we finalize and kind of hone some of these plans that we're talking about on the block level planning, which you'll learn more about. And we'll use this as a way to continue to update, inform, engage, provide resources, information, and all of those good things. The working groups that you can see, those are the department level kind of planning and implementation working groups, part of the structure of the neighborhood subcabinet. That's used to kind of identify those overarching goals. We'll continue to refine. They'll be managing kind of the implementation of the impact investment area projects. And, after today's meeting, they'll also lead incorporating feedback that we get from you all as part of this back into the plan, and kind of having that so we have an incorporation, and then we'll continue to have a communication feedback loop, so that it isn't just that it comes in, but we also want to make sure that it also goes back out. So this is just the first of the parts of a process, so that there is continued engagement and communication. We want to have as many people have as much information and feels included in the process as possible. And then the neighborhood subcabinet, this is kind of that cabinet level oversight and resource prioritization. How are we going to make everything happen that we want to see happen, that you all want to see happen, and how do we do that with the other agencies and with the leadership of Mayor Scott and Chief Administrative Officer Shorter, Chris Shorter is the CAO. And that's kind of this monthly meeting structure with those cabinet members and the project directors related to the neighborhood subcabinet and related to the impact investment area work, to make sure that we have the projects and the resources aligned across different agencies and different sources of those funds to make make the vision become reality. So today is just one of those. There we go. So this is just another way to kind of visualize that structure. Basically kind of that executive level prioritization, the agency level planning, and then that community level and information sharing and general feedback piece. We are at the base of the triangle, or what I like to say, we're the foundation, right? This is a foundation. This is a building block. The community is the foundation for the work that we're doing. And that is why tonight's conversation is so important to realizing the vision and to all of the work that we're doing, and to giving a voice to the community and having that engagement. So it's not just at a bottom of a pyramid. Let's not think about it that way. Let's think about it that it really is the foundation, and we're building off of that foundation to be able to implement the ideas and the strategies that are put forth. Next month, we're going to move up a little bit to that kind of middle stage. There'll be another working group. We'll be processing information that we heard here today. And then, at the top, then we'll be working on aligning resources and continuing to kind of move things forward. So with that, I just can't thank you all enough for your participation, for your engagement, and for showing up tonight and for being part of this process. And as always, myself, I am happy and willing, and sometimes the staff is like, and everybody, we're going to talk to everybody. So if you want to meet, if you have other questions, don't think that tonight was your only night. We're happy to set up additional conversations. If you want to meet on have lunch, however you want to engage to be able to talk about the work that's happening in your community, we are here and we want to be engaged with you and have that dialogue and have a shared dialogue on how we can address all the challenges that we see, and also not just challenges, but also how can we celebrate the changes, how can we celebrate the wins, and how can we celebrate the community that is already vibrant. We have so many things within this corridor that are fantastic, that have been moving in directions and that are worthy of celebration, and we have a lot more work to do, and we want to do it in partnership with you all on a regular, everyday basis. So thank you again for taking time out, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner with the Department of Housing and Community Development, Kate Edwards.
Good evening, everybody. As Commissioner Kennedy said, my name is Kate Edwards. I am the Deputy Commissioner for the Development Division at DHCD, and today I'm going to give you a really quick overview of the implementation strategy that we put together for the impact investment area, for the West Side Impact Investment Area. So first, before I get into it, I wanted to ask everybody, could everybody raise their hand if they've had a chance to look at the implementation strategy online? It was available online. Did anybody check it out? Yes, a few people. So I think I need to give you, I want to give you a base understanding that a lot of people haven't had a chance to look at it, give you kind of an understanding of some of the terms in the implementation strategy, things that we're going to go over today in the breakout sessions. But I don't want to, bore you to death and get too deep into it. So I'll try and balance that and give you enough information so that you can have a good conversation when we get into the breakout sessions. So first, I want to give you kind of the main goal in all of the impact investment area. I mean, not goal, but the main strategy is that we're really building from the strengths in the neighborhood. So the impact investment areas were first identified in our community development framework. This was a document that was put out in 2019, and it's the guiding document for DHCD for equitable development in the city. And in that document, we identified numerous impact investment areas. The one we're speaking about today is the West Impact Investment Area. And these are areas that we saw as poised for transformational revitalization at the neighborhood level, and that based on their existing assets and current redevelopment activity and proximity to other areas of strength, we thought that with really concentrated investment from the city, coordination of city resources, we could really see and realize that transformational change. So the West Impact Investment Area includes Penn North, Druid Heights, and Upton neighborhoods. And all of these neighborhoods have a really rich history in Baltimore, and especially within the African American community. And so there's numerous assets to build from in these neighborhoods. So in this map, you'll see it more close up when you're in the breakout sessions, or actually I think it's over there. But this gives you an overview of some of those key assets that we've been looking at to help us build that building from strength theory. So we have the Black Arts District, we have Pennsylvania Avenue, the Pennsylvania Avenue Main Street, the Avenue Market. We have numerous historic assets. You have the Arch Social Club, the Sphinx Club, Upton Mansion, historic PS 103, and all of these are currently have renovation plans or under redevelopment. We also have several national registered districts in this area. So historic districts, we have historic Marble Hill. And then we also have a lot of new housing developments that are currently underway or recently completed. You had Marshall Gardens was completed. Then you have in Penn North, there's the North Avenue row house development. You have Baker's View 1 and 2, and then also the redevelopment of the 800 blocks of Harlem and Edmondson in Upton. And then we also have numerous recreational assets. So we have the Shake and Bake Center that we're in right now. We have the planned Parkview Recreation Center. So the planned Cab Calloway Legend Square, and then we also have numerous other new development projects. So building off of all of these projects is the main theory of the impact investment area, and we think that with concentrated investment and coordinated deployment of city resources, we can really tackle those. And then over the past 2 years, we've been working with neighborhood leaders, residents, developing strategies, identifying priorities. This has been in our working groups, and really have had a lot of discussions internally with a lot of different experts from the housing department, planning department, and all the different city agencies to coordinate this work. And so building off of those assets and looking at the existing conditions was another piece of it. So we really wanted to dig into what are our existing conditions and what kind of strategies can we employ. So we looked at where do we have concentrations of homeowners, where do we see a lot of rental properties, where do we have some scattered or clustered vacancies, and what kind of tools can we use to address those. So we discussed this information in our monthly work groups, and we also had these workshops with DHCD and planning to really deeply dive into this information and come up with some data-driven analysis that would help us come up with the right type of intervention for each of these blocks. And so all of this information helped us to put together the West Implementation Strategy, and that's going to provide us with a recommended set of actions and investments for the city and partners to implement. And the purpose of the implementation strategy is to draw on this work to codify our existing commitments, strengthen the platform for ongoing collaboration with community partners and stakeholders, and really focus on the hyper-local factors such as legacy homeowners, proximity to assets, housing stock, and making smart and targeted community-based development decisions. And so another term that you'll hear a lot today, and I know Alice already talked about it a little bit, is our block level planning. So using all that information, we really started digging into the neighborhoods block by block and looking at each block and coming up with a strategy. And so some of those strategies that we came up with were, which blocks do we want to target homeowner support to make sure that these blocks are protected because they already have a good number of existing homeowners, and we want to make sure that the rest of the properties on the block get redeveloped and get homeowners into them. So we want to use strategies specific to retaining our homeowners. And then we also looked at all the different tools that we have. So we can use receivership, which is a tool that the city can use to get vacant properties into the hands of somebody that can redevelop it. But it's a code enforcement tool. We don't have a lot of control over the outcome, but we can move properties that way and get them back into the a beneficial use. But sometimes we really want to acquire the property. So the city can also use acquisition as a strategy. And we can acquire properties through tax lien foreclosure or through negotiated sale, condemnation, donations. So the city can acquire properties. This will be targeted on really vacant properties that have been abandoned. And we can acquire those properties and then resell them and get somebody in there that's gonna get a homeowner into them and get them back into a beneficial use. And we also have stabilization of properties, we have homeowner supports, and we can also use strategic demolition. And so those are the tools that we're using in these documents. And another layer of it is the community development zone. So this is where we start to prioritize. So we get all that block level planning down, decide what strategy is best for each block, and then we dig in and start prioritizing those blocks. Because currently we don't have the funding to do all of what's needed in all of the blocks. So we got to prioritize. So we started by looking at where are those assets that we talked about at the beginning? Where are those pockets of home ownership so that we can prioritize those areas, or major redevelopment projects that we can build off the momentum of? And so we created community development zones, and we prioritized them with the zone ones being the highest priority. And those are the ones that we're going to get started on right away, the ones that will use the current funding that we have to start on. And then going forward, as we get more funding, we can move on to the other community development zones, 2, 3, and 4. And so some of those current zone ones in West are McCullough Street and Druid Hill Avenue in Upton, because that's really building off of the strong housing market to the immediate east in Reservoir Hill and Madison Park. We also have the 2400 block of Edding Street and Penn North, which already has a high rate of home ownership, and so we want to look at the blocks surrounding that to make sure that we're shoring that up. We also have in Druid Heights the area around the Bakerview townhomes, and then we also in Penn North are looking at around the Parkview Recreation Center, which is a planned big $1 million of investment in the neighborhood. So we want to make sure that we're acquiring properties around that new rec center so that those properties can be redeveloped and we can offer them for sale. So that's another focus area. And then also Cab Calloway Legends Park, which is a new park planned in Druid Heights. And of course, I already mentioned the 800 blocks of Harlem at Edmondson. And so those are our priority ones for now. And I just want to make the connection that this work that we're doing tonight is really going to directly impact how we spend money. So we have money right now that we've gotten from ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. We've got $15 million. That's for all of the impact investment areas, so not just for West. So we do have to spread that around. We have Park Heights and on the east side, the Broadway East, there's several other impact investment areas. So it's going to be spread out, but we do have that money. And then we also have money through our capital improvement plan. And so we're going to use that money as well. So right now we're in the process of using all this information that was put in the implementation strategy and making assignments to start those acquisitions and look at ways that we can deploy that funding as quickly as possible, start acquiring properties, start stabilizing properties. And the ARPA money can be specifically, we're using it for acquisition, we're using it for, like I said, stabilization, also homeowner repair grants. So we're going to have grants that are going to be available for homeowners to make repairs to their properties, and then development incentives for vacant properties. And these are going to be on the targeted blocks within the priority ones for now. And so then we will expand it out. So for now, we really want to finalize those priority areas and make sure that we've got them right. We've been working in the work groups, talking with the partners in the work groups about those areas so that we're getting that feedback. But the point of this meeting is to talk to a larger audience, to get more feedback and more input into where we're targeting those resources and what are the highest priorities. So I'm really, really excited to be here. I'm so glad that we're finally at this point where we're able to share this information and get your feedback and work together on this redevelopment project and keep things moving.
So I'm here this evening to provide an overview of the city's project tracker for development activities in the West Impact Investment Area. For those of you whom I haven't had the pleasure to meet, I am Kimberly Rubens, Chief of Policy and Research for DHCD. I provide technical and analytical support for the implementation of the city's impact investment area strategies, among other duties. So the West Impact Investment Area Strategy document that Deputy Commissioner Edwards mentioned in her remarks takes the city's development efforts from theory to implementation. The project tracker that I'm going to walk through is the accountability tool to track our efforts in these three neighborhoods. So first, some general information about the project tracker. It is currently tracking 19 projects up here on the screen behind me in Penn North, Druid Heights, and Upton. For each of the 19 projects, there is detailed information about the goals of the project, the timeline, the steps needed to complete the project, as well as the parties responsible for executing each step, along with expected funding costs and other pertinent information. It will be updated on at least a quarterly basis. I want to take a minute to talk about what is and isn't included in the project tracker. So the project tracker, the projects that are included are those in which DHCD is playing a significant operational role or providing capital. It is not designed, nor is it meant to be an exhaustive list of every development effort taking place in the West Impact Investment Area. I'll talk a little bit more about how you can provide feedback or suggest additional projects that should be included at the end of my remarks. This tool is about transparency and accountability as DHCD implements this transformative whole neighborhood development strategy. This project tracker makes transparent, in particular, 2 key features that I'm sure many of you are familiar with that impact development efforts. The first is the amount of time that it takes to complete a development project, as well as the available funding. So now I'd like to walk through 2 screenshots from the project tracker, which is live, to demonstrate how to navigate it. So the first project that I would like to discuss is on 1900 Edding Street. I believe our developer is here in the audience today. I'd like to thank her and her team for all the excellent work that they're doing. So this is a screenshot. So of note, on the top of the screen is a bit.ly link that you can use to access the project tracker, and I'll discuss other ways that you can at the end. So as I said, this first project is on 1900 Edding Street. The project description is on the left-hand side right below the list, so it says residential rehabilitation. Below that is a map of the West Impact Investment Area as well as the project's location. Also underneath the project description is a hyperlink to access the project location on a live map. So this code map link is helpful to view property conditions of both the development site as well as the surrounding blocks. To the right of the project description is information across 7 columns that detail all of the steps needed to complete, as well as some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So you see the action step, the responsible organization, the status of that step, optional notes, timeline, needed resources, and percent funded. So something I'd like to call your attention to is the timeline of this development project. So the redevelopment of these homes has been underway since 2018, which speaks to a common theme that you'll see across development, which is that development efforts and this work for whole block neighborhood transformation does not happen overnight. Another point of interest is the funding for this project. We think it's really important to be transparent about what funds we do and do not have available to complete a project, and is useful for us in our capital planning efforts. The next project that I'd like to discuss is Upton Gateway. Again, all of the same information that is available for the 1900 Edding Street project is available here for this project. This standardized format is used across all of the projects for ease of use. So a few ways that you can access the project tracker. So as I mentioned, there's a bit.ly link at the top. There's also my contact information. So if you need help navigating it or accessing it, or would like to provide feedback or comments, you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly.
Really excited tonight about the turnout that we had for our first community conversation in the West Impact Investment Area. It really shows the level of commitment that the community members have to the vision for their neighborhood and wanting to share that information. At DHCD, we're committed to having these conversations, and we're committed to including community and not just having it be a top-down approach, but really a bottom-up approach to the work that we do around community and economic development in the city. The work in impact investment areas is extremely important because it shows where we're making concentrated investment in communities that historically have been ignored and disinvested in for years. And this doesn't mean that we're not paying attention or looking at all communities around Baltimore City. It means that in these communities right now, we're making a concentrated effort with significant investment to transform communities so that they can be the best versions of themselves as we support Baltimore in being the best version of itself, as Mayor Scott says.